Now recognize the respective floor leaders for remarks as we begin this session. With that, I recognize the gentleman from Allegheny County, Mr. Turzai.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, family members, friends, staff, and the citizens of Pennsylvania, welcome again to the People's House of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the House of Representatives. For me, a grandson of immigrants, to be able to stand before you on this swearing-in day is quite an honor. And I'm sure it is quite an honor for each and every member of the House of Representatives to be sworn in and to be a part of this illustrious body as we move into the 197th session. If you'll permit me, at the start, the people that I love to see every single day, and who, whenever I think of the public reputation aspect of this position that I always have in front of me, are my lovely wife, Lydia. Lydia, if you could stand. And my three boys, Andrew, Stephen, and Matthew, if you could three stand. Thank you for being here today. And I know that for each of your families, it is the same heartfelt experience, and it's just a loving opportunity to get together with each other today. I want to tell you a little bit about this body. I think too much in the press sometimes is so critical. And really, it's an august body. It remains an august body, and it is even better than it has been for the good work of many folks over the last sessions. The Pennsylvania House first met as the Provincial Assembly on December 4th of 1682 at Upland, near Chester, 40 days after the founder of this colony, William Penn, arrived. The ratification of the Pennsylvania Constitution of 1790 created the Pennsylvania House of Representatives as we know it today, 1790. At that time, it did create the Senate. Some of your predecessors include Speaker Benjamin Franklin, Representative James Buchanan, who went on to become the 15th President of the United States, and Representative Thaddeus Stevens, who happened to be one of the founders of our party, an early leader of that party, and a significant influence, if not the significant influence, along with the President, during the Reconstruction period following the Civil War, with not just the 13th Amendment as portrayed in the Lincoln movie, but also the 14th and 15th Amendments. The Pennsylvania House of Representatives has been a benchmark of representative democracy since before the founding of our nation. In fact, it was our body, the General Assembly, that hosted the Second Continental Congress and the Constitutional Convention when it was located in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Each and every one of you, each of the new freshman members, you are now part of that great experiment. I ask you to take this responsibility, this privilege, seriously, and with all the cherish that you can put into it. We also want it to be a position of great joy, because the opportunity to govern and to make a difference is in front of each and every one of you, Republican and Democrat. Each and every one of you can be part of governing. Because here in Harrisburg, despite differences, and there are policy differences, that's how democracy works. The fact of the matter is, unlike I think sometimes in the national capital, we actually get quite a bit done on a bipartisan basis, and did so last session quite often. I say that to you because we have a great opportunity in front of us. And it has both a personal note and I think a larger historical note. On the personal note, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee There's a quote where the dad, Atticus Finch, is talking to his son, and he says to him, and it has always hit me, don't make judgment until you step into another person's shoes. I think when each and every one of us take the time to step into another person's shoes, we can understand their perspective and try to get to a consensus all across Pennsylvania. It takes work. It allows for the airing of differences. But solutions can be reached that make a difference and that the people of Pennsylvania are expecting. I also, just as we start this particular session, want to quote the 40th President of the United States in his inaugural address, Ronald Reagan. Again, and keep in mind, Ronald Reagan himself was a Democrat before becoming Republican and always reached out to people on both sides of the aisle. And his line at that inaugural that I most think is telling for us is, so with all the creative energy at our command, let us begin an era of renewal. Let us renew our determination, our courage, and our strength. And let us renew our faith and our hope. We have every right to dream heroic dreams. And those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look. In this room, there's an awful lot of heroes. And I would invite each and every one of you, a book that I read and cherished as a young boy was Profiles in Courage, put together by then Senator and later President John F. Kennedy. The stories in that of elected officials who made tough, courageous decisions, not to stop things, but to move things forward. His book was replete with those stories. I invite each and every one of you to take the opportunity to reread it. It's a short read, and it's very telling. Now, I want to talk just briefly a little bit about the past, and then talk as we move towards the future. I think this body, Republicans and Democrats alike, passed significant legislation in a bipartisan manner. Things, issues, controversies that had taken years, and we moved them forward with bipartisan support. Changing the building code in April of 2011 with a 129 to 68 vote. Or reforming unemployment compensation in a bipartisan manner, 129 to 67 in June of 2012. Tort reform, lawsuit abuse reform, 116 to 83 in June of 2011. The good man from Montgomery County and the past member from Allegheny County, both chairs of our Consumer Affairs Committee, with respect to infrastructure upgrades, 194 to nothing in February of 2012. The tax reforms, including the single sales and the educational improvement tax credit, 140 to 56. The public-private partnerships, 117 to 79, in changing how we're going to fund infrastructure. LIHEAP reform, unanimous. Pen Watch, where every expenditure for every body and every agency is available, unanimous. The good lady from Bucks County, in making sure that there were teen driver safety improvements, 188 to 6 in September of 2011. And the Megan's Law reforms, 196 to nothing, or the reaction to the Gosnell controversy, 151 to 44. The wiretap updates led by the good gentleman and his colleague from Dauphin County and Berks County, 191 to nothing. Those were issues that we talked about for years that nobody would actually tackle, and they became law. And our last budget was a bipartisan effort as well. And I think that there's going to be plenty of opportunities for so many of you, because each and every one of you is a leader. Each and every one of you got elected by the people in your area to come and represent them and to take into account all of the citizens of Pennsylvania. And like the movie Lincoln, we have to work together to make momentous things happen, and you can be part of it. There is an opportunity also in moving forward where I think, in working with the good gentleman from Allegheny County, a man who I knew well before the legislature, prosecutors together, played softball together, know him as an individual before knowing him in the world of politics. We have, I don't think it's often touted, made changes with the Speaker and the other leaders with respect to the administration of this particular body. A lot of people talk about, in the news media, about per diems. We together made changes, and from this 11 and 12 session to the 9-10 session, over $1.76 million was saved with respect to the reforms that we instituted with respect to that to make it more like the private sector. And in addition, everybody here and all of our staff now contribute to health insurance, everyone. And all of this savings, which should be done because that's what folks outside for here are doing, is saving over $3.5 million just this year, and over the next 3 years, almost $10 million. As for our caucus, by the end of next month, no member will be leasing a vehicle at the state's expense. In addition, this body, I know it didn't pass the other chamber, but this body passed in a bipartisan manner a constitutional amendment to reduce the size of the House and the Senate with 140 bipartisan votes. And I believe, with consensus, we will take that up again. This is a body that has not been just about talk. It is a body, collectively, that has worked very hard to move Pennsylvania forward and to improve the lives of the citizens of Pennsylvania. We can even reach higher heights this session with an element of respect and with an element of decorum. It's interesting. When you watch TV in Congress, they're really never really on the floor. They come, they make their speeches before the camera, and they leave. If you watch our body across the hall, the Senate, oftentimes it's just scripted. This truly is the people's house. We are all here. We actually address the issues. But the element of respect that each of us has for each other, and not to abuse the floor opportunity, but to actually state a perspective, but at the same time to ultimately get the votes, because the vote that each and every one of you have, that you were given the privilege for, is the ultimate expression of your position that you take back home to your constituents. It's the ability to vote. I like to tell our new freshman member 3 important items as they start. And I want the citizens of Pennsylvania to understand that we think this as well. Each and every one of us understands that we are leaders back home and that our reputation back home to our family and friends matters. Second, we are fiscal stewards of your hard-earned money. We recognize that when we take in revenue, when we tax folks, we are taking it through individuals through the personal income tax, through the sales tax, through business taxes, through inheritance tax, and that you have given us the responsibility to determine how we should appropriately spend your hard-earned dollars. We have to prioritize and we have to do best. And third, even the governor, and no citizen doesn't have the right to introduce or vote upon a bill. Only you do. You members are the only folks, along with the members of the Senate, have the ability to introduce and vote upon a bill. I tell everybody, and I know like good persons like my friend Congressman Scott Perry or Representative Nick Mercarelli who had to serve our country abroad. I get that. I understand the absences, and when there's those deaths in families, we all understand that. That happens in real life. But to have the privilege to vote in committee or on the floor is something that none of us ever should take lightly. I think there's great opportunities in front of us. There's real issues that we have to address. We have a $41 billion deficit with respect to pensions across the state. We have a system with respect to dispensing liquor that has been outdated and is out of touch with the citizens in other states and our experiences of our own citizens. We, in fact, have to make sure that we improve public education and stand with them to make it better, and to make sure that school boards have their resources, while at the same time making sure that we focus on the kid, that every person has the right opportunity to get as far as they can. Those are just some of the big issues that are in front of us. There's many more. You know them as well as I do. In fact, some of you know them better than I do because you made yourself experts. In working together, like we did on redistricting, the leader and I, both final votes voted together because we compromised and worked things out, there is great opportunity. And I have gotten around much of the state, but as leader, I am more than welcome to come and visit each and every one of you as best I can in your region of the state, because it is a state made up of great cities, great towns, great rural communities, and great suburbs. And those citizens deserve us working together. God bless you, and thanks very much for having me speak.